This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, a Dunedin City Council stoush has made it all the way to the High Court following allegations around a councillor's behaviour. Whitebaiters are unhappy with a new proposal from the Department of Conservation. And a newly finished house built to raise funds for charity is set to go under the hammer this weekend. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Daryl Baser. A Dunedin City Councillor is seeking to have a mark on his record set aside and is taking the issue to court. Councillor Lee Vandervis has asked for a judicial review of the decision by his fellow councillors following an incident with a DCC staff member last year.
An investigation into the censuring of Dunedin City Councillor Lee Vandervis over an exchange with a staff member about parking was flawed and unfair, the High Court has been told. A council investigation found Vandervis to have behaved in an aggressive, loud and intimidating fashion during the incident last year. His lawyer Len Anderson QC told the court in Dunedin today that independent investigator David Benham should not have been appointed and the investigation was not fair. He says the council's censure of Vandervis should be set aside. The DCC's position is that Vandervis's case is narrow and technical. The incident relates to Vandervis making a complaint to a council staff member about parking. The complainant's version of events was that a dispute was over a parking ticket, while Vandervis says it was about signage on a meter. Michael Garbutt and Shelley Chadwick are the lawyers for the council. Garbutt says Vandervis made full submissions to both councillors and their investigators. He says ultimately councillors decided to censure Vandervis and there would need to be clear procedural error and prejudice for that to be quashed. Justice David Gendel has reserved his decision. In Dunedin, the South Today.
American rock group Guns N' Roses are set to perform in Dunedin in November next year. It's the band's first big stadium tour announcement since the outbreak of COVID-19, and they're hoping the pandemic will not be a hindrance to touring in a year's time. Forsyth Bar Stadium is set to be one of two New Zealand venues to host the Los Angeles-based hard rock band. Promoter Paul Dainty says Dunedin was chosen because of the stadium and because the city is a good place. The other city being treated to the long-haired rockers is Wellington. Tickets are due to go on sale next Thursday. Some whitebaiters are up in arms about a proposal to protect whitebait in some West Coast rivers. The Department of Conservation has drawn up a list including 25 West Coast rivers or waterways which could be closed to whitebaiting.
Well, morons, aren't they?
Haast whitebaiter John Hewer doesn't think much of the suggestions by the Department of Conservation to close a number of West Coast rivers to whitebaiting.
A good kilo in there, at least a kilo.
Hewer says there's been a lot of both cultural and financial investment into catching the juveniles of the 6 native freshwater fish as they swim upstream.
Well, there's thousands of people, families, 3 and 4 generations doing it. You know, they've got batches, have poured money into it. Of late, people have poured money into it, big money, you know. It didn't cost us much to get a stand. When we were 15, we were eligible to register for a stand, but now they've got to pay tens of thousands of dollars for them, you know.
The Department of Conservation says studies show that the adults of 4 of the 6 species of whitebait are now threatened or at risk of extinction. However, many West Coast whitebaiters say that while catches vary from year to year, they haven't seen an overall decline in numbers.
Well, it fluctuates from year to year. It's not, you know, but I don't notice any difference in because we only take what we want. So I don't know, we don't do it commercially, so you really haven't got a handle on it unless I suppose you do it commercially.
Whitebait, we keep records every year, and records have been going back 100 years for whitebait catches. There's no decline on any of the West Coast rivers from our records.
In fact, Mitchell says whitebait are so prevalent it would be impossible for them to become extinct.
Whitebait come up all year round, and certainly out of the season. They're just going to keep breeding. If you tried to wipe them out, I don't think you ever could.
The list of possible refuges in South Westland includes the Cascade, Smooth Water, Arawhata, Waitoto, Okuru, Haast, Parianga, Manakaiawa and Cook rivers. In Westland, the South today.
Crews have extinguished a blaze near Otatara, west of Invercargill, after multiple cars caught fire this afternoon. Fire and Emergency New Zealand say two fire appliances from Invercargill and a water tanker were called to the incident just after midday. The fire was at a tractor servicing business. Fens says the owner of the business was away at the time of the fire and nobody was on the property when it started. It was only when a client came to pick up his tractor and noticed flames that 111 was called. Fens says the cars will be written off. If you're looking for a brand new relocatable 3-bedroom house, you might want to check out an auction at the Otago Polytechnic this Saturday. 3 relocatable homes built by students are going under the hammer, with one being sold to raise funds for charity.
Otago Polytechnic students have completed building this home, which is to be auctioned off for charity on Saturday. The 3-bedroom house with 1 office and 2 bathrooms was put together with numerous sponsors helping turn it into a very desirable modern house.
Great package from Kitchens for Less, which really kind of set it off. Each year we get a different colour scheme from a colour designer, which keeps it modern. It's not something that builders are very good at picking, those kinds of things, but we really rely on all the sponsors to come in and give us their expertise.
The house is one of several built over the year, with about 100 students split into groups of about 25 per house. Constructing their first house is a learning experience for the students and takes each team all year.
To be honest, about 10 weeks of building at the Polytech speed, because we spend a lot of time in the classroom and going over things a few times with students and tearing things down that weren't quite right and fixing it up and getting it all perfect.
This will be the 13th year a house has been auctioned off for charity, with Thompson always being pleasantly surprised at the success of the sale.
And I was very pessimistic right from day one that we could ever sell a house by actually going to auction, and every year I'm happily proven wrong.
The auction is set to be held at the Polytechnic at noon on Saturday. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And still to come on the South Today, we have the latest edition of Global Insight with Professor Robert Patman. See you after the break.
Hi, Alec Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. And check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alec Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole Map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
You've seen us in the street, now find us online. Check out shopon.org.nz. We have all sorts of treasures, from retro and vintage clothing to antiques, homewares and accessories. New items added every week. We're open 24/7.
No mai no, welcome back. A side lifter and containers which toppled at Port Chalmers on Tuesday have been righted. A huge gust of wind pushed over the loader while it was shifting a container. Port Otago says the loader operator was uninjured and able to get out of the machine unassisted. Yesterday afternoon, 3 cranes were used to lift the side lifter and containers upright again. Port Otago says the containers were empty at the time. In today's Global Insight, Professor Robert Patwin says Ethiopia being on the edge of a civil war has alarming implications for New Zealand. Professor Patwin says the country's proximity to New Zealand's oil supply lines is an alarming situation.
Civil war has erupted again in Ethiopia, a country with ancient cultures and a population of more than 100 million. Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
This region, the Horn of Africa, is probably unfamiliar to a lot of New Zealanders, but it's an area of interest for you. What is the background, recent and historic, to the civil war in Ethiopia?
Well, we've now got what looks like an approaching civil war. It's not quite a civil war yet, but the situation looks alarming, and it involves a confrontation between the federal government, which is located in Addis Ababa, led by someone called Mr. Abiy Ahmed, and a group called the TPLF, the Tigray Tigray People's Liberation Front. And the context for this is that this confrontation has developed since Mr. Abiy became leader in 2018. And between 1991 and 2018, the TPLF played a significant role in the running of the federal government in Ethiopia. And indeed, Meles Zenawi, a prime minister, was from Tigray. So Tigray is a northern part of Ethiopia, consists of about 5 million people, but has, in the last 3 decades, played a significant role in the running of the country. And since 2018, Mr. Abiy has tried to assert increasingly centralised control over the country. There was an armed incident involving Ethiopian soldiers in Tigray, and this has led to bloodshed and confrontation. And in fact, the TPLF also launched some sort of airstrike, although limited, in Eritrea as well. So it's an alarming situation, and at the moment there is a war rhetoric and war action occurring in Ethiopia.
It is, as you say, an alarming situation, but it is a long way away from us here in New Zealand. Does it have any significance or any relevance for us here?
Yes, I think it does. As we've often said, New Zealand's part of an interconnected world, but we get about, our country is critically dependent on the importation of oil. Much of our oil imports come from the Middle East. The Horn of Africa is immediately adjacent to the Middle East, where we get our oil, and it overlooks key arteries in terms of maritime arteries, such as the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, and a strait called the Bab and El Mandab, which most super tankers have to pass through. Now, we get our oil via super tankers. So should the situation in the Horn of Africa not only degenerate within this very large country, which, by the way, is quite heavily armed, should that degenerate, it has the ability to affect the entire region. And Middle East players have also been quite, like Egypt, for example, and others have also tried to influence the situation. And of course, neighbouring Somalia has a problem with Islamist terrorist group Al-Shabaab. So, as you can see, if the Horn of Africa becomes really unstable, it could have regions of the Middle East region, and that in turn could affect our ability to deliver. It could affect the security of our oil supplies.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Ka kite anō.
And you can watch the full interview with Professor Patman online at odt.co.nz. And after the break on the South Today, we visit Invercargill with a host of vision impaired athletes and take a look at the weather on the gradual slide toward the weekend. See you after the break.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Hi, Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
Step into Shop on Carrot and discover a shop full of treasures. We have a fantastic range of vintage and retro clothes, upmarket clothing labels, collectible items, beautiful jewellery, quality linen and the best range of vintage haberdashery.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
Thanks for staying with us. Archery was on the agenda for southern members of Blind and Low Vision New Zealand at a Have a Go Day in Invercargill recently. About 30 members from Dunedin, Gore, Balclutha and Invercargill came together for a sports day, where for many it was their first time holding a bow and arrow.
People who were either blind or with low vision from both Dunedin and Southland got together for a fun sports day in Invercargill yesterday. It was indoor bowls in the morning, and in the afternoon they were taught archery by the Deep South Archery Club. The club's head coach says blind archery is growing in popularity in Australia, and it's something he'd like to see more of in New Zealand.
It's huge, yeah, it really is quite a big sport in Australia, and obviously we've got to start somewhere, and we obviously would be needed to get one or two people here where we would provide the gear and the coaching and get them up to a level that we would anticipate them being competitive at at least a regional level, and then that's at the sky's the limit.
The blind visitors were coordinated by Robin Bai, who says they're always keen to be exposed to new sports.
I just think we should be out doing more days like this if it's possible. You can tell by everyone, they're really excited about it. It's really nice to be working in with like Artie from Deep South Archery. Without him, we can't have this sports day. So it's really, really nice for other organisations to include us doing sport and recreation.
Having grown up with disability myself, it's always difficult to fit into any environment. And what we're trying to do here is make sure that these guys are made to feel as they are part of society as normal participating archers. There's we don't look at them as being blind, we just look at them as being archers.
In Invercargill, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. A Dunedin City Council stoush has made it all the way to the High Court following allegations around a councillor's behaviour. Whitebaiters are unhappy with a new proposal from the Department of Conservation. And a newly finished house built to raise funds for charity is set to go under the hammer this weekend. Time now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's Otago Daily Times. We welcome the Deputy Editor, Mr Craig Page.
Good evening, Daryl. A bit of a push ahead for the new Dunedin Hospital today, finally. The new Health Minister, Andrew Little, has unveiled some new design pictures for the project and also announced an overhaul of its governance structure. And that's all set up to try and fast track some of the building consents that are required for this. They're going to release some concept designs officially next week, so we're looking forward to that. But some concept drawings come out today, and it looks quite nice as a hospital. Our neighbours, so it'll be nice to look at. And the governing body, the Southern Partnership Group, which has been operating now for quite some time, getting things up and running, that's going to be replaced by a new executive steering group, which is similar to what exists for a lot of other big government projects like this. They're going to be applying for fast-track consent under the new COVID laws or legislation that's been brought in as well. So, yeah, some good news finally. There's been a lot of talk about the hospital last couple of years, and the government's under a bit of pressure really because things don't appear to be happening too quickly. So finally, we might be starting to see some action, so that will be nice. Queenstown Marathon this weekend, and there's going to be thousands, of course, descending on the town for this, a marathon and a half marathon as well, and a couple of even shorter events. We've got a nice story about a group of 35 people who are going to be running in honour of Constable Matthew Hunt. He was the police officer killed on duty in Massey about 5 months ago. He had planned to do some marathons with some friends prior to his death, and they decided to continue that tradition, and they're running 6 marathons around the country, Queenstown of course being one of them, as a bit of a tribute to him. And they want to try and remember him as a person, not just a police officer, so that's kind of cool. Several local police officers are going to take part as well, just so, yeah, it's going to be a big day for them. So
that's a lovely story.
Yeah, it is a nice story, so well worth a read. Now Friday wouldn't be Friday without our sports lift out, and the focus is going to be on Otago's semi-final match, rugby match against Northland in the championship. Tomorrow night at the stadium, not a great lead into the match for Otago. They've had losses to Southland, who would have thought, and Tasman last weekend, so not great. Northland had a big win over Waikato last week, so they're on a bit of a high. So it's going to be a big match, actually, and be nice to see people get along. Otago's been trying to get out of that championship and into the premiership for many years now, so they really, well, if they don't win tomorrow night, there won't be another this year. So hopefully they will. Fingers crossed.
All that and much more.
Thanks, Daryl.
Cheers, Craig. Time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view of Otago Harbour, taken roughly from the Edgar Centre. Looking at the situation, troughs of low pressure arrives this weekend with unsettled weather for most places. Starting off at the northwest of the South Island, mostly sunny in Westport with 18 degrees, partially cloudy in Greymouth with 19. Heading across to the northeast, expect scattered showers in Nelson with 22 degrees and partially cloudy skies in Blenheim with 21. In Canterbury, you can expect cloudy skies and 19 degrees in both Kaikoura and Christchurch, with partially cloudy skies and 21 for Ashburton. In the southern towns, fresh westerlies and rain develop with 18 degrees for the Catlins and Balclutha, similar situation, and 17 degrees for Lumsden and Gore. To central Otago, freshening westerlies with rain later for all over here. 18 degrees in Wanaka and Queenstown, 19 in Alexandra, and 16 degrees in Te Anau with fresh westerlies and persistent rain. In the northern towns, expect moderate northerlies with high cloud increasing. 19 degrees on the coast for Timaru and Wamaru, with 20 degrees in Twizel and Omarama. In Dunedin, mostly fine, but a bit of high cloud tonight, with an overnight low of just 6 degrees. High cloud increasing and thickening tomorrow, with northerlies. Rain develops mid to late afternoon. A high of 18 and a low of 12. Cloudy with spits of rain and mild northerlies for most of Saturday, and heavier rain with strong cold southwesterlies developing late in the afternoon on Saturday. A high of 19 and a low of 9. And in Invercargill, mostly fine tonight with an overnight low of 7, cloud increasing and showers developing tomorrow with freshening westerlies, a high of 18 and a low of 11. Periods of rain on Saturday with fresh northwesterly winds at first, colder southwesterlies developing during the afternoon, a high of 16 and a low of 10. And that's all from the South Today team for this Thursday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great evening. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.